Asina option. Sisodwa la. Ningumsebenzi la kuthina. Honorable members, good morning. Once more, I think we have met just at 8 o'clock. We're meeting with the department now again. HOD with your entire team, good morning. We've been here since 8 o'clock. Besinhleba ke la HOD. Sino treasurer besanhleba. Uyabo. Angithi me ngesizulu yini ukukhokhasa. Ukuhleba. Yabo. So besenza lokho ke exactly. Besihleba ke besisanhleba la HOD sino treasurer ekseni. Sibuka ukuthi izinto zime kanjani, but good morning to you. Let's start the meeting with a very bad note. You gave us your presentation only at 9:30 last night. But because we do not sleep late, I had a look through at the presentation. But it is becoming a norm that we must not be given information so that we do not prepare ourselves when we come into this meeting. This is happening now with your responses also that were due on the 15th of October. We only received them last Friday, which for us is a serious issue. Because when we give you 15 October, we don't mean 15 of November. And you give yourself 15 of November. It's not right. I think, you know, HOD, we must, when we have given time frame, we requested these documents, the presentation itself, 7 days before the meeting. You know, so now I have to, you know, request members when they were calling me last night, saying we have not received the Department of Education. It's a problem. So I'm pleading with you to really, I don't want to say to improve, because it will seem a bit light. You know, you must not improve, you must comply. So it's a request that we are making. Okay, I'm not sure whether the MEC has joined virtually, if we can check, so that because our agenda is not very long, we are going to give the Honorable MEC an opportunity to make remarks, and then we will then give it the department HOD and your team to do the presentation. We'll take discussions, and then we'll close the meeting. Should not be a long meeting. Should be out of here latest 10 o'clock or so. We should be out. So we are really pleading with you when you take that time to do presentation. Honorable MEC, we realize that you have joined. Please be welcome, sir. We are giving you your time to do your remarks as you wish. Good morning to you.
Morning, Chair. If I can be just given just a minute, Chair.
Okay, no problem. Oh, sorry. Yeah, while we give you 1 minute. Oh, you are here. Okay, I thought that you are joining online. Okay, all right. Yeah, let's honorable members. So we've got the agenda for us, honorable members. We are now dealing with. Let me go to the agenda. We are dealing with. Oh yes, we welcome MEC. So it's the apologies. My sincere apologies. It's the apologies. I think we've got an apology of Honorable de Klerk, who has a pressing issue. He has apologized officially. You know, Honorable de Klerk is always present and on time. But also we've got Honorable Rosette and Honorable Baisiela, who are with us, who are joining virtually. We have not received any other apology except for those three. But of course, in fact, is one apology. Other honorable members are going to be joining. The agenda is item number 4, where we're going to give the Honorable MEC for Education remarks, and then it will be presentation on their mid-year budget performance. We'll have a discussion. We'll then take the presentation on vote 10, sports, arts and culture, have a discussion, then take the presentation on Ezemvelo Wildlife, and then take a discussion, have a closure. We should be finished around 1 o'clock, the way we have planned it, because all of these presentations are not very long. Can we adopt this, honorable members? Honorable Dawatela, moved.
I can never be called Honorable de Klerk. He's my comrade. Thanks, Chair. Greetings to your good self, the honorable members and the officials from the department. I wish to move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you so much, Honorable CQ.
Thanks, Chair. What's the adoption?
Thank you. All right, then we are on item number 4, where we are giving the Honorable MEC. Honorable MEC, we thought that you'd join, but thank you for coming through. It's very valuable, and I think you've answered the issue that Honorable Dex was talking about here, saying he liked to see you in person. You know, I think he likes you. You know, thank you so much.
No, thanks, Chair. Let me start by apologizing for taking your time, and also I want to apologize for greetings to honorable members present, HOD, DTGs, and also no officials, CFO. I think, Chair, let me start by apologizing for the comments that you have made, of which I don't think it's a comment that should always be raised by the committee through you of submitting reports late. I heard that you indicated that the members, they received a report yesterday late. Fortunately enough, others, including yourself, you were still awake. Maybe others, they slept early. That's why we sincerely apologize for that. I also heard that you said you must not improve, but you must comply. And I think HOD and the team, they've taken note of that. Because of time, Chair, as you indicated, I don't want to waste your time, but I want to appreciate the opportunity given to account about the budget that have been presented in this committee, which we highlighted number of challenges, and yourself and the members, they are aware that as a sector, educational sector, we one of those departments who are most labor intensive and also socially impactful at department in government as a department. I must, Chair, indicate that so far there's no report that has been presented to us in terms of disruption of examination, not only for grade 12, but in total, all grade, which means that the report that was presented in this meeting about the ready of examination for all grade, it means the team led by the HOD and DDG Masbogo, who deals with curriculum, they've managed to implement the plan that was presented. The CFO will going to give us the presentation, and we are supposed to be at least expected with 50%, and they will deal with that. Having said that, because of time factor, Chair, we want to appreciate your time, at least Honorable Dexy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable MEC. You are raising what a very important issue regarding exam. We appreciate that. That at least they've been running. We have not had anything. which is very, very important. We appreciate that that point. Yeah, you know, your friend here, Dex, I'm sure he's very happy now. Yeah. 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 Oh, his friend. No, thank you so much. And then HOD and your team, you will guide us in terms of your presentation. Over to you.
Honorable Chair and the members of the committee, Honorable MEC, as well as colleagues from the department, our presentation is going to be done by the CFO, Ms. Yali Joy.
My apologies, CFO. My sincere apology. I know the team MEC, but I realized honorable members were asking when the team was coming through. Probably it's best that we introduce the team, because I might know the team, but members might not really know the team. I know they'd ask when they were coming in. So can we just do the introduction HOT? Or the CFO, you know. Oh.
Thanks, Chair. The CFO is seated just next to me, Ms. Yali Joy. Next to her is Mr. Mazibuko, who's DDG Curriculum. Next to him, Advocate Masugu, DDG Corporate Management. Next to him, it's Weziwe Hadebe, DDG Institutional Development. Next to Weziwe Hadebe, Mhlongo Hadebe, is Mr. Mhlongo, who is the Chief Director for Infrastructure. Next to Mr. Mhlongo, Mr. Mbanjwa, who is Chief Director in the Office of the HOD. And then there's Dr. Mahaye, who is a Director in the Office of the MEC. That's the team. Oh, no, and there's also Uneli Mhlongo, who's the Director in the Office of the HOD. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Honorable Dlungwane, the chairperson of the Finance Portfolio Committee, the honorable members, honorable MEC, the HOD, DDGs, colleagues, a very good morning. I will take us through the presentation in terms of the budget performance of the department for the period ended 30th of September. We'll look at the status of our norms and standards, the accruals and payables, and touch on the situational analysis in terms of the budget pressures and the measures that the department has put into place. I will go to slides 4, where we always start our presentations. And the main reason for this is the impact that these accruals and payables have on the current financial year. When we started the new year, we started with accruals and payables, including invoices that were captured on the system but not paid as at 31st March 2025 to the value of 3.3 billion. We also started with an accumulated unauthorized expenditure, and we've shown from 2019-20 to the accumulated value of 1.5 billion. On slides 5, in terms of the status of the accruals and payables, what this has meant is that when we received the budget for the current financial year, we've had, although we have a budget allocated to us, the cash that is for the budget for the 2025-2026 financial year was used in making payments to these accruals and payables. So it has reduced the cash availability. And what this has translated to is that although we have a budget, but there is no cash, so the budget is not cash backed. We were at the beginning of the financial year on the 2nd of April 2025, placed under Section 18 of the PFMA was invoked by Provincial Treasury to assist with the slowing down of the expenditure. We'll also see towards the end that the department has a turnaround strategy to ensure that it tries and addresses this ongoing concern regarding the controlling of the expenditure. Honorable members and Honorable Chair, on slide 6, what we were trying to depict is that in the budget line items, we've placed against each line item how it is being impacted by the carrying forward of these accruals and payables. So you would see that over various categories, if we look at mainly our goods and services and our transfers and subsidies, it means that for each line item, whenever we make a payment relating to a payment that relates to the previous financial year, then automatically in the current financial year, there is no funds to actually make payments for the operations of that financial year. Still on slide 6, if we look at the balance remaining and maybe just concentrate on
we apologize for that. Honorable members, can we, including our staff, can we really focus? Thank you. Our apologies, CFO.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. So if on slide 6, under the balance remaining, after taking into consideration the expenditure captured for the current financial year, and we also need to take note that in terms of our financial accounting system, when you capture a payment on BAS, it takes it as a payment. But now we've got this gap between the payment and the actual cash outflow leaving at the department to the service provider. So this gap has been created, and it's a huge gap because of the issue of the accruals and payables. So if we just look at the balance remaining in terms of our goods and services, for example, on slide 6, we have about 2.4 billion rands in terms of the balance remaining. And if we look at the accruals and payables and the items from the previous financial year, which is about 2.3 billion. So you can see that you don't have much for the remaining part of the financial year. I will go to the Midyear performance because we will touch in details in terms of the sections 18 later in the slide. If we go to slides 9, it's just depicting our adjustments. We received the approval of the rollover application for the LPID grant. This was for goods and services that were purchased in the previous financial year, only delivered in the current financial year, and the rollover was approved at 3.3 million rands. On slides 10, in terms of the key assumptions, as always indicated at all platforms, because this is also another key point of departure in terms of how we move forward as a department. We do see there the cost of the wage agreement of 2.8 billion, and that of the pay progression, where the total was 3.2 billion, but we're only provided 497 million by Provincial Treasury to fund this wage agreement. So it meant that the funding of the wage agreement was at 18%. So this definitely has impacted the operations of the department, because we already had officials and appointed in terms of our structure. So it meant was that we take from the operations to continue making payments in terms of our cost of employment costs. The national norm also, as covered on slides 11, for compensation is 80%, but currently the department is at 89.2%. This means that we've got less and less in terms of spending for the operations. And you'll see how this unfolds in terms of, what is impacted throughout the operations, in that we are not able to meet our obligations. We're making payments late, and it is a continuing cycle year in, year out, because we'll also see in the upcoming financial year, we are estimating that we'll close in a similar position that we did in the previous financial year. So all slides 11 is showing is how our operations are impacted. So we are running on a lesser budget, and because of the limited baseline that has been provided to us, what we try to do as a department is to remain within the baseline, but which has proven very difficult due to the carry-through costs that are continuing year in, year out. I will go into revenue on slides 12 in terms of our collection, where the department has collected higher than budgeted in the second quarter. And this is mainly, as explained on slides 13, due to a movement in our transactions and financial assets and liabilities, where we had an over collection from a refund that was from the South African Revenue Services of 79.9 million rands. And it relates to appeals that the department made in respect of taxes that were paid in the year 2015. 2016. So this is the main reason that we have shown an over collection, because if you see in terms of the percentage that we have collected, we are at 212%. And this will paint the same picture as we move on to the year end, where we will over collect as a department in terms of what we had budgeted to collect. We will move then, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, to slides 14 in terms of the budget performance, in terms of the expenditure. The department, as at the end of the second quarter, spent 49.4% of the budget, and it is below the mid-year projections of 50%. And the main reason or the contributor to this is the slowing down of the expenditure in terms of the Section 18 that was invoked by Provincial Treasury, and the continued enforced cost-cutting measures so that the department can remain within the baseline. I think it's also important to highlight that if we look at the programs, the program that we will mainly overspend is a program 2 under the public ordinary school education. And this is mainly because this is where the budget for the payment of the COE for the educators is sitting. And you will see through the enforced cost-cutting measures and the invoking of Sections 18, all the other programs are projected to underspend. But this under expenditure will be through environments taken to program to reduce the over expenditure. Where this puts the department is that we are at a point where we are almost between a rock and a hard place, because what this means is that in as much as we have slowed down the expenditure in terms of Sections 18, we are getting to a point that there is no cash at all to make the payments. So if Provincial Treasury, because each time we have to issue an order, we have to go through Provincial Treasury. So if the order is not issued, it means that we can't capture anything against the budget, and that will lead to an under expenditure in inverted commas. And in normal circumstances, for under expenditure, you are expected to pay back monies back to Provincial Treasury. But where the department is at the moment is that there is no cash to back the current budget. So I think that is a discussion that we are having with Provincial Treasury in terms of at the end of the year, at 31st March 2026, we are getting to a situation that if we don't continue to capture, it then means we have to pay back cash, and the cash, there is no cash to pay back. So I think that is what we'll see throughout the presentation but the details are on slides 55 in terms of how this has or how it is unfolding. The same picture is depicted on slides 15 in terms of the budget performance by economic classification. Again, there we see, if we look in line with the compensation of employees, that is where a bulk of the over expenditure is going to occur, and that is mainly attributed to that unfunded wage agreement, which we are dealing with. In terms of all the other economic classifications, the shift again, whatever under expenditure we will shift it towards where there are pressures to try and reduce the over expenditure. We are seeing that our overall over expenditure is reducing as we're getting closer and closer to year end, because at the beginning of the year we're at about 1.2 billion, but now we are at 899, and it's the impact of what I had indicated in terms of the enforced cost cutting measures and the slowing down in terms of the issuing of the orders. The details in terms of the economic classification is also explained on slides 16 and 17, but I have highlighted the main areas in terms of where the spending pressures are and where we're experiencing spending pressures as a department. I will go to slides 19 in terms of exclusive and specific funding, and we see that in terms of the specific and exclusive funding, the overall expenditure is at 52.2%, where we see the improving infrastructure support at 52.8%. The district, the OSS and DDM responsibilities at 42.7%, and the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative at 53.8%. In terms of the sanitary dignity project, there is no expenditure as at the end of the second quarter, and this is mainly because the order was only issued at the beginning of July, and the first invoices were issued in the middle of September, and as at the end of the quarter, they were still undergoing the verification process before payments could be made. There was a delay in the issuing of the order because there was a confusion in terms of the proceeding, whether we could proceed with this expenditure, as when Sections 18 was invoked, there was no clarity. It was just indicated that grants can continue, but there is a difference between grants and specifically and exclusively appropriated funding. So we needed to get that clarity, and we got it later in July, and immediately we then issued we issued the order. For this particular funding, we don't foresee any over expenditure at year end, and we will be making corrections under the improvement infrastructure support, where there are some posts that have been allocated here, about 16 posts, which were incorrectly allocated due to the incorrect coding being used. That will now be sorted now in the adjustments budget. But for all these items, we are looking to fully spend as at the end of the financial year. In terms of our conditional grants on slides 21, we show that the grants in terms of our projections, we spent about 95%, but in terms of the overall budget in aggregate, we spent at 49.4%. We don't foresee any over or under expenditure as at year end, and we do explain the main reasons for some of the slight under expenditures as at the end of the second quarter. And I will start with EIG on slides 22, where we are showing that in terms of the projections, we were at 92.6%, but in terms of the budget, we were at 50.4%. We had expected to spend higher, but we were impacted by the suspension of work by contractors. But currently, as we speak, 98% of these contractors are back on site, and activities are continuing as usual. We've shown on slides 23 as well, in that because in the past we would normally utilize expenditure as well that we get from equitable share, but because of the issues of the funding, we have not issued any orders that were budgeted for, and this is mainly because the Section 18 was invoked in April. The budget had already been implemented at the beginning of the financial year, so we then had to ensure that everything is only done under EIG. So some of those projections or projects we had projected to do, we did not carry out. Also, the slight under expenditure is a result of the delay in the receipt of invoices, and we have indicated from the various implementing agents the dates in which the invoices were received, and they were just after the second quarter, which was in the first 2 weeks of October. So hence why you would see that under expenditure in terms of what we had projected. But if we look at the overall percentage in terms of the actual budget, we were within the benchmark of 50%. In terms of the LPID grant on slides 25, as well, there is an under expenditure, but the main reason is that we do have some of the processes in terms of the SCM orders that will be issued in terms of the in terms of what needs to be procured, and that will catch up, and there is no risk that this will underspend at year end. For MST, we are well above the straight line at 60.6%, and this is the nature nature of this type of grant. Its outputs are not linear, so you'd find that a lot of the outputs we spend within the first 2 quarters, and then you'll see some slowing down in the last 2 quarters. But this grant will remain within its baseline as at the end of the financial year. With the NSNP grant on slides 26, I'm showing an expenditure of 48.5%, which is below the benchmark. There was a delay in terms of the invoices for September were received in October, but this grant will catch up at the end of the financial year. It's a similar picture shown for all our grants, the remaining grants, the ECD grants, the EPWP grant, and the HIV and AIDS grant. Where the ECD grant, the projects were at pre-construction stages, but we have plans to fast track the progress on the ground. That is the overall picture in terms of our grants. When you go to slides 27, we included a table for our infrastructure related projects, and you will see for infrastructure during the adjustments budget, there is some reprioritization because you would see that in terms of the contractors which had suspended work, it was mainly under refurbishment and rehabilitation. But the ones for upgrades and additions, they did mainly continue. When we look at our spending in terms of our projections and the overall budget, we're at 47%. There were some slight delays, which is linked to the explanation which I had provided earlier under the EIG grant. Where the expenditures are way above in terms of the projections, for example, in terms of the infrastructure leases, and also some of the new infrastructure assets. It was high in terms of payments that were made that were due to accruals from the previous financial years. So it had accelerated the expenditure in a manner which is much higher than what was anticipated. I will then move on, Honourable Chairperson, to slides 32 under the heading where we'll be looking at the approved post establishments and the headcounts. As a department, at the end of September, we had 8,571 vacant posts when we look at the total approved fixed establishment. And in terms of the additional establishment, we had 3,768 vacant posts, which brings us to a total of 12,339 vacant posts. This is largely due to the non-filling of the posts from natural attrition and because of the non-funding of the wage agreement. And we then will see over the slides how this has also impacted where we've actually shown the details in terms of the educator posts. I'd also like to report, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, that the department is currently performing the headcount verification exercise in terms of the number of officials within the department, and this is done in conjunction with ELRC and DBE. This is a project which is part of the financial recovery plan. And if we see our financial recovery plan for this particular project, we had anticipated savings of about 500 million rands, nothing less than 500 million rands. But we, as the project is unfolding, we'd have to go back and revisit that estimation because it is unlikely to be realized. Because even with the PESAL cleansing exercise, we have not really realized any savings, and it is sort of giving us an indication in terms of the numbers that we are showing and confirming those numbers. But of course, at this stage, we cannot fully confirm that until the exercise is complete, and we will come back to the committee and also report in terms of the results of the exercise. The table that is on slide 33 is just merely showing us in terms of the affordability of the educator posts, and to indicate that this is where the main bulk of the over expenditure is sitting, and it is at 1.2 billion rand that is being projected. We have been gradually reducing the posts due to the non-availability of the funds. And we will see that the total number of the posts that we can't afford, if we look at the total approved establishment, it's 5,872. But if we look at what is filled in terms of the establishment, what we can't afford is a total of 2,106 posts. We have outlined the impact on human resources in terms of the issue of the non-funding of the wage agreement and the pressures around COE, where we can see on slides 34 in that in terms of the pool, although it's not reduced, we are not filling, as hence you see those high vacant rates. There is a limitation, and of course it will impact the teaching and learning in classrooms, and but the department is trying to limit as well the appointment of substitute educators to actually enforce these savings due to the unaffordability of actually appointing in the posts. On slide 35, again, not only in educators, but this is also critically impacting in terms of how we operate as a department administratively. And we see that in most of the areas we have, staff shortages where we're having interns and students where they come, we try and supplement the current overburdened skeleton workforce. This has, what we've seen, it has actually led to increased stress levels and as well as inefficiencies because of that. So it does have an impact in terms of our operation. When we go to the norms and standards on slides 37, we just wanted to provide the status as well, so that in terms of the situational analysis, it becomes clear. And the department had received an advance of 900 million rands from provincial treasury earlier in the year to address the issues of the payments of the transfers. We have shown on slides 39 the payments that had been made, but of course this just provides a breakdown of what we had paid. The payment is not only limited to the 900 million, but the 900 million rands was assisting us in terms of fast tracking, and it meant that we had taken from funding which we are or were expecting to receive in January, February, March, and we brought it forward and received it in the month of June. So what this means is that now in January, Feb, March, we're not expecting to receive anything from the provincial treasury because this amount has already been provided to the department. So this contributes in terms of the added pressure in terms of the non-availability of the cash to make any payments, whether it's payments to service providers, whether it's payments for fixed costs for water and lights, for leases, etc. So what we have paid so far, we have shown as well on slides 40, where we've paid a total of 1.1 billion in terms of all the categories of the norms and standards, which cover a whole range as listed on slides 40. We are also showing how much we have not paid in the current financial year that we should be paying to the schools, and it is at a total of 933 million, which is also shown on slides 40. Over and above what is owed in the current financial year, as a department, you still have monies for norms and standards for the previous financial year, which have still not been paid over. And this is on slides 41, and it is to the value of 295 million, and it's for the basic allocation and the LTSM. The advance that has been provided by Treasury has assisted in terms of fast tracking the payment, but in terms of the overall baseline, we are still or we will still find ourselves in terms of accumulating some of those amounts which we have not paid as yet. In terms of the accruals and payables, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, on slides 43, we just wanted to show, as at the end of the second quarter, what we have recorded in our interim financial statements. The accruals were recorded at 591 million, and with the payables at 191 million. So payables means that we've received invoices, but we are not. We have not made the payments. Again, as had been indicated earlier, we've shown for the honourable members on slides 45 and 46 in terms of the impact on the operations. in terms of the financial standing of the department. And I think it's just indicating what I've already provided in terms of not being able to meet our obligation, not being able to meet or pay suppliers on time, leading to litigation, leading to interest being charged on overdue account, which leads to fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and at times some closure of buildings where we have cuts in terms of the municipal services that we received. So there is a whole lot impact in terms of the operation. And if we look at how also this affects our schools, in that with our limited baseline and also not being funded for some of the national policies, we do find that in terms of the norms and standards that we pay to school, which are below the benchmark, then they also end up not being able to pay their domestic accounts on time. And then it comes back to the department where we have to step in terms of the bailout. But now what is different is that the department itself cannot sustain its own operations as well. So the operations are greatly impacted. On slide 46, we're also showing in terms of just our operations. In terms of the working conditions of the staff members are severely compromised, as also there's a lack in terms of the functional tools and like your stationery and all other facilities that we should be using. We have implemented cost-cutting measures where you see there's limited support for things like your S&T. We're not doing any training programs, and also data gathering becomes a major challenge, as most of our systems are still manually driven. And you'd see that the best system is, or the preferred system is, always the automated system. But as we are trying to improve also in terms of our financial recovery plan, we still find ourselves still being driven by systems which are highly manual. So it does impact in terms of our efficiency in terms of the operation. Honorable Chair, in terms of our situational analysis, as indicated earlier when I was indicating the position of the department, where we find ourselves with the issue of the current budget, which is not cash backed. We have shown this in clear details, and I think slides 48 and 49 is our historic information, which we always show in terms of the carry through costs. On slide 50, we're just going back in terms of how the funding of the wage agreement. And I think the last time that the funding agreement for the department had been fully funded was back in 2018-2019. So from 2019-20 to date, it has been reducing, and we show the percentages where in 21-22 it was 82% funded, in 22-23 91%, 23-24 it was 73% funded, and in 2024-25 it was 0% funded. Hence why we see this huge accruals and payables coming over from 24-25 affecting the 25-26 financial year. In the current financial year, we're only funded by 18%. So what this means is that the same thing that is happening in this financial year will happen next year, because we're building up accruals. So when we start the new year, we will start at a negative. We've also shown how operations are impacted, where we see how much we're taking from operations, and when we're looking at the COE that is being funded from non-personnel expenditure, and we'll see that for 22-23 we took 836 million rands, for 23-24 573, 24-25 662 million rands, and in the current financial year we've taken 1.1 billion because we have not been funded. And we've shown the same picture in terms of the reduction in terms of the posts. If we look at how much we had filled in the previous year on year, we can see that in terms of how we've been reducing, the numbers are shown on slides 50. A similar picture where we wanted to show the full picture on slides 51, which is the same thing we had shown earlier, in that whenever there is no funding and we're taking from operations, it affects all the line items in terms of the budget. And you'll see here a lot of rates, because it means that we have not had any additional funding, and hence we had to take away from the operations. And we've just highlighted on slides 52 some of these areas where we've taken budget for maintenance and repairs to administrative buildings. We haven't filled posts, and as we saw the high vacancies, we've taken from training budgets, we've taken from tools of trade, we've taken from consumable stationery and printing, we've taken from computer services, where you find that we are behind in terms of payments for that. We've taken from the topping up of school furniture and any other support, and also the rolling out of the programs, the MST programs, the coding and robotics, and the Bella manipulatives, and also the early reading material we've taken from that. We've also fallen back in terms of supporting the municipalities where they have not been able to pay their municipal services. We've also had an impact or taken from providing buses for special schools, and also there has been a reduction in terms of the payments we have made to CETA. So it was just to highlight to the members in terms of the areas that have been impacted. I'll go to slides 54, where 54 and 55, but mainly on slides 54, what we were showing the honorable members is that in the first column where we say we've got a budget, you'll see at the bottom we're saying we've got a budget available of about 1.8 billion. But if you look at the cash resources to the right of that column, this is where we're showing that the actual cash resources are unavailable. We are at negative 152 million for now. So if we continue to capture against the expenditure, it will just be stuck on the system. But at the same time, if we don't continue to capture against the budget, then it means we've got an under expenditure for the budget, but there is no cash to pay back. And I think I've covered that earlier on. So on slides 55, we also were trying to show or to illustrate that to the honourable members. But what's also important is that in terms of our provisional allocations now in the adjustments budget, we are expecting a provisional allocation of about 640 million for COE, but that will just reduce the amount of the it will reduce the over expenditure of the 1.2 billion. We're also expecting to receive around EIG and as well as around for disaster management. But what that means is that for EIG, it's a conditional grant, so it will service what is happening under the conditional grant. But now if we take a step back and have a look of what that has on the impact of the availability of cash resources for the department, it still means that we still remain in the non-availability of cash, and without that necessary relief in terms of the cash injection, we will accumulate about 2 billion rands as at the end of the year, which we will not pay, which means we are repeating the cycle of the cash shortage going forward. We've also highlighted on slides 50 in terms of what are our immediate pressures. And if we look at the top three with the unauthorized expenditure, the shortfall in COE and our immediate, or in terms of the fixed costs, it's about 5.2 billion rands, which is quite a lot. And without this, it means everything falls back and is just carried forward to the following financial year. We've also just disclosed to the members as well with the number of invoices that have not been paid on time, and that is shown on page 57, where we've got total invoices paid after the 30 days, and it's because of the issue of the cash availability, the crisis. We are showing that we have 326 invoices to the value of 130 million, and then we've got other invoices which are way older than the 30 days, is 6,307 to the value of 993 million rand. So we're already seeing that we are building up the accruals for the following financial year. As we move on to the progress of the implementation of the Section 18 in terms of the measures to control overspending, these slides just merely show us where we are with the Section 18, which was invoked on the 2nd of April. We have received approval letters within the second quarter, and they've been outlined on slides 60 and 61, where they have indicated what we can do and or what we can proceed with. And we can see that with the approvals that we have, what must be noted is that they have been approved on condition that the department enters into agreements with service or providers or suppliers that we do for delayed payments, and this is because that there is no cash available. So I know normally, with the recent approval which we received in the third quarter for the payment or for the procurement of the textbooks, there was an impression from the suppliers to say that that approval came with with cash. So we had to explain, no, it's an approval to proceed to go ahead. We still have to negotiate with the supplier to delay the payment. So that indicates on slide 62, we also show some of the items that are with Treasury were to be approved, and the first two bullets and the last two bullets were approved in the third quarter. So you will see that picture changing when we come back to report to the committee. But for LTSM, the only thing that had been approved was for the procurement of stationery, but not for the textbooks, and we are still following that up and engaging Provincial Treasury on that matter. As chairperson, in terms of the mitigating or interventions that we've put in place to mitigate or try and reduce the expenditure, those are shown on slide 63, with our top three projects being the employer and learner verification, the personal expenditure cleanup, and the smart meter and alternative energy projects. And then in overall, we are implementing the cost containment circular from Provincial Treasury. Our financial recovery plan includes these projects. The others are the review of contract management, reviewing the facilities that we're using, leasing versus buying, and also managing the issue of the personnel provisioning norm in terms of the temporary educators, and as well as trying to manage the issue of the long sick leave, the early retirement, the overtime, and the late terminations. So those are the intervention measures that we're putting into place, but it must be noted it's medium to long term. But so far with the projects as indicated earlier, like for the verification, we're expecting to realize quite a lot of savings, which could have assisted in terms of our position, but that is highly unlikely and will need to be revisited. Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members of the Finance Portfolio Committee, that brings me to the end of the presentation with the following recommendations. As outlined on slide 65, where it's recommended that the committee notes the 2024-2025 year-end fiscal position. It notes the media performance of the department, for the committee to note the norms and standards status, for the committee to note the disclosure of the accruals and payables as at the end of Q2 in our interim financial statements, and for the committee to note the situational analysis of the department, and lastly for the committee to note the measures that have been implemented by the department in terms of controlling this overspending. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm hopeful that you are covered with this presentation. No, thank you so much. Just imagine if you had sent the presentation earlier, would not have started a very good presentation. You know, I must say, MEC, there is one thing that we note is that when there is a full-time CFO, there is stability, and you can see this progress. You know, so yeah. But let me allow members to interact. But just that note, for me, would not have started at a negative note. If you had sent the report late, early, would have started quite nicely. You know, Honourable, yeah, Honourable Dex, Clever Queen, Honourable Nae. Okay. Late nje uyafika nje ubone the report. Okay, Honourable Dokotela and then Honourable Sembe. Ungena emhlanganweni ungahlali naphansi uphakamisa isandla. Let's on a lighter note. Honourable Paisiela noted also. Okay, in that order. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just for my MK comrades that came late to the meeting, they must be wondering why I'm sitting so close to the chair. You know, it's the transition. I'm preparing to take over the chairpersonship of this committee soon. I'll be chairing the committee very soon. That's why I'm sitting so close. Yeah. No. Yeah, this was on a lighter note. Chairperson, I want to echo the same sentiments of yours that you can see there is stability now that we have a CFO in place. And in fact, when the CFO, the last was a Scopa, when the CEO presented the Scopa, after the meeting, in fact, we went up to the CFO and we asked her where did she work previously, because we could see she understands government. And then she informed us, no, she comes from provincial government department. So, but we could see the experience, we could see that the CFO know what she's doing. So yeah, I know there's a big improvement in the department. And to thank you, MEC, that you have make the right appointments in your department, because you must have the right appointments in order to fix up the department. So well done, MEC. But there's the issue that I want to raise. This thing worries me. The issue of the unfunded mandates, the wage, because that is the wage agreements that get reached at the national level, and then provincial government, education department must fund it and pay for it. Now, this definitely will have a negative impact on the budget. We can't run away from it. And my concern is that when you look at this over expenditure and this accruals, it started in 2019 and it's been carrying on and on. Now, when you reach 2025, you need to fix it, but I don't see that we will fix it, because then we can immediately in 2025, we then have budget cuts, major budget cuts, like never before, which is actually the Treasury disputed it. The HOT of Treasury said that last week in Scopa. She told me it is not an austerity budget, because they're not cutting on main items, they're cutting on unnecessary expenses, But when you look at the areas affected by cost-cutting measures here, when you look at it here on page 52, those areas of cost-cutting on page 52, those are essential services that the department needs. So definitely it's an austerity. We have austerity measures in the province. Treasury Department have implemented austerity measures, which is not going to assist this department. So that's my big concern. So I want to ask a political question to the MEC. I will not ask the officials questions. I want to ask the MEC over here. MEC, you can see that this thing is going to create problems going forward. There must be a political intervention here. I would like to hear your views on how do you see us addressing this issue here, because it will continue affecting your department. They will continue overspending if we don't address this issue about the unfunded mandate. How do you see your view on this matter? Negotiations with national government on trying to cover this shortfall, or how do you see how can we address this problem? Because here you need political intervention and political leadership to address this issue here. So I want to hear from the MEC, what is his views on this matter here? Because the last time the MEC, on the lighter note, the MEC was online, and the MEC said, we're not going to pay for this unfunded mandate. And the HOT said, no, we are paying the increases. And the MEC said, no, we're not going to pay the increases. But the chair didn't want me to interrogate. The chair said, no, stop, don't ask, because there was two views that was expressed in a previous meeting last year. So I just want to know from MEC, how are we going to address this issue here? Because it doesn't matter who governs at the end of the day. Where does the IFP, where is the ANC, where is the TA, when is the MK? This problem is not going to go away unless we don't intervene and deal with it. It's not going to go away.
Okay.
We will find a way of addressing it.
Let's take just a few questions because of time. The interactive take a bit of time. Can we take a few? Clever Queen, and then Honorable Naya, and then probably would allow the department to come in and then take further.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to Honorable MEC, HOD and your entourage and my colleagues. We welcome the presentation and echo the same sentiment raised by Honorable Dex in regard to the clear presentation, as the chair was saying. But chair, we must indicate that next time if they give us the report at night and then we're having a meeting on the following day, we'll chase them back. They must note that, because really it gives pressure on us. You know, we like rubber stamping, you know, we're having to really interrogate the report. So I think the HOD must note that it's a last time that when the report is given to us, is given, you know, like a few hours to start a meeting. Having said that, Chair, is not negative. Is that it's what you said, Chair. They must comply. But we appreciate the report and the progress that has been made by the department, Chair. We know that we met with them in the Scopa. Also, as the chair was saying, that we see the progress, because we can see the overspending of 899.5 million in this report, vis-a-vis the 2-point-something billion in the same time in the previous year. So it shows that there is a progress. There is a political will to deal with these challenges that are facing the department, except those of budget that is beyond their control. Chair, I want to ask the question in the accruals. Chair, we can see that they have also tried, but I wanted to check the breakdown on the accruals for this 1.645 billion in regard to the breakdown on the accruals by category: goods and services, infrastructure, and compensation, to get a breakdown where those accruals are coming for the most in regard to, which is 1.6 billion. But we can see that the department has done the best by reducing it, paying it, you know, from that amount. It's positive going forward. Also, the department says some payments are not yet captured. You know, what system failures caused us that they are not yet captured, those accruals, because they need to be really number 3. How will the late recognition of payments affect cash flow and service delivery in the remaining quarters? How is it going to affect? What corrective measures are being implemented to prevent future accrual buildup? Although asking this question, understanding that these accruals are as a result of the budget, but we want to know whether is there anything that the department can do to deal with that. But I am asking this question, understanding the cause of that. But I think it does not mean that the department must fold their hands and say these accruals would continue. They must come up with a plan, like Honorable Desk was asking, also in regard to negotiations and so on. Treasury is assisting with accrual verification. When will the final verified figure be available, so that we understand exactly the final figure in regard to that? Maybe, Chair, let me stop there and allow other members. I will come back if the time is there, Chair.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and good morning to the Honorable MEC, HOD, and your department. and to colleagues. I must say that we do note the improvement. However, we need to understand where you are at with the Section 18 intervention, an update as to the steps, that have been required of you to carry out. So an update is vital. If you could just take us through those steps and tell us where you are and what you've done, then it'll help us to understand whether this is going to be a long-term turnaround and a success, and what needs to be done in the department as well. I'm looking at page 63, your current interventions. And the first one there was the employee and learner verification. And I see that this has been delayed. So this is one of your interventions and it's been delayed. So perhaps just explain why, because that should have been highly prioritized, being an intervention and considering the current position of the department. Then my other questions are on page 20, Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. There's been an underspend there, and you say that some schools elected not to appoint. Perhaps just explain that. Why would they do that? And do they have that prerogative to not appoint? That's on page 20. And then the NSNP grant spending, also underspent because of late invoices. What is the reason for these invoices being submitted late to you? Perhaps just help us understand that. I'll leave it there for now, Chair. Thanks.
Yeah, let's take them. You'll guide us, MEC.
No, thanks, Chair. This will come the report. I'm sorry, the input from honorable members. HOD and the team will deal, but it's correct, Chair, to say the challenge that we are faced with does not, it need officials to comply with piece of legislation. However, if there is no intervention in terms of injecting budget, even if you can employ any CA in a highest experience as a CA, are not going to solve the problem, because the problem is budget. If I might emphasize that, we've tried to engage national government. We were promised that during the adjustment budget, we will receive something. But today, there's nothing that have given to us. I heard that we might get plus or minus 400 million, which might not make any impact on the challenges that we're faced with. We also request that the portfolio committee to assist us to engage relevant authorities to assist the department, because it's not about Lomoga, it's not about Ngobo or whoever, but it's about dealing with the challenges that we are faced with. I don't know why the HOD for Treasury or Finance said they are not cutting on the essential services or budget. That's why at some point I will request that we have a joint meeting, Chair, because I don't want to behave as if when someone is not here, you talk bad about him or her. But it's better that we raise issues where all of us are part of the meeting and we're able to produce evidence and we demonstrate it rather than to say, I think that will be a wrong approach to deal with. However, I think yourself, we have able to identify cut on the items that are really are serious that are affecting the department. Part of the, I think I remember you're correct that Section 18 intervention in terms of the PFMA and what was written to us. One of the issues that they raised is the issue of in terms of education failing to pay public works. And that's why I'm saying I will request sometimes when we have a joint meeting, we ask that question if are we still owing public works? And when last we paid them, we cleared everything. We no longer owing them, but it's still appearing there. That means from Treasurer side, there's no update. I don't want to say there's a need of Section 18 or not now. I don't want to enter there because I don't want to be seen as if we don't want any control measures to be put in the bill because Section 18 is a control measure to manage budget to not overspend or underspend. But from where I'm seated, a number of issues that have been raised by Treasurer on the letter itself, we've complied with it. The question why was still there, I think that is a matter from where I'm seated for me because I'm a politician, HOT and others are not politicians. I can say it's political. It's clear. I can say it even outside. I've said it even before. Why I'm saying that? Because when we had serious challenges of LTSM, and we wanted to confront the issue, Treasurer Court said, no, we're going to approve certain orders, including LTMS, because there was a political pressure. I think it's important to say that. Look, the issue of verification of employees, we started that process, if you remember, which was also part of Section 18 to say we can get more. It was part of the of strategies to get a more a budget and try to close the leakage. And when we started and we agreed that on the date, but there was a call from National to say, this project, we must not start it, it will be done at the national level. And Treasurer, they are part of that. I'm not sure if in their report they presented that. It's no longer within our own control. We are part of those who are coordinating like other provinces. I'm aware that the DDGs, they have been attending a number of meetings coordinated at the province. However, have started the program have started because there were workshops that have done. There were some verification that have started, but I think they will give a more information. I think on the issues of accruals, I think I've taken note that it's important to separate it, but the CFO and HOT will tell you. Thank you very much.
Just to say, Honorable MSC, at least to understand the Section 18, I don't understand it. In fact, I mean, I hate it. To be frank, because I was looking at some of the issues that you are dealing with. Literally, the department is unable to do anything. You know, even the issue of new programs, which are very important for the functional of the department itself. You know, but that would be my comment, which also I'm free to say it anyway. Yeah, HOT and your team.
Okay. Now, thank you very much, Chair and honorable members of the committee. I think the MEC has touched on the learner verification and employee verification, and I'll quickly give an update as to where we are. The project is not actually late. It started later than expected, but the way it is run now is different from the envisaged way we were going to do it. We're going to go to school, count heads, like it's called head count. Now, this one is an IT-driven process. So we were supposed to have started in July, but we started in October. Even if we had started in July, we would have finished in October. So we're on par, although we actually started late. At this point now, in terms of the July project that we have started, we would be at an analysis stage. That's basically roughly where we are now. We've done the learner headcount, we've done the educator headcount, which is the bulk, of the numbers that we have. We are doing an analysis now of that. The service provider is doing that analysis now, and will give us a report soon independently, because that's the other advantage of this one. It is done independently by an independent service provider. We are at a stage now where we are doing public service employees, and we are finishing them this week. So we are actually where we would be anyway, even if we had started in July, because this one is IT driven as opposed to the one that we're going to have started in July. The NSNP late payment of invoices. There are various reasons for that. One of them, just besides late submission of invoices by service providers, the other reason is the verification process that takes place after the service provider has submitted the invoice. In many cases, the delay is caused by simply the fact that there is a dispute on the invoice itself, on items delivered to the schools. And when that is the case, we don't pay until that dispute is resolved, because we can't pay if a principal says this supplier did not deliver ABC, but the invoice has ABC. So we until that is investigated and settled, we then we don't pay. But the good thing is that there aren't that many of such invoices. Although if it comes out in the media, it says there's a delayed payment of NSNP providers. But when you actually do the stats, which we do monthly, we actually find that these are usually a tiny minority, delayed, of course, by these issues that I've mentioned. I think that there's been a comment on Section 18 and so on. One thing that I just want to add is this. Recently, Provincial Treasury allowed us to issue an order for stationery and not for textbooks. The implications of that must be known to the committee. The implication is that we will deliver stationery and not textbooks. There are financial costs involved there, because it means we've got 5,800 schools. It means we'll go twice to each school now. Whereas our plan was we would go once, because the truck would go to a school with stationery and textbooks. But now the trucks will go with stationery only. The second issue that we have to bring to the attention of the committee is that while we have to negotiate with the service provider that will delay payments and so on, which we've been doing over years and we are doing even now, there's one part of it which is the transport part. The service provider who supplies us with stationery and so on has to subcontract transporters of this, and we are unlikely to win there in terms of, he is unlikely to win in terms of requesting them that he will pay them later, because they will say that we need diesel now to try to transport. So that's the other thing that we are unlikely we are likely to face just now. But of course, even today we're having a meeting with provincial treasury to place those things, to say, look, you've allowed us to buy stationery and negotiate, but we will have a difficulty when it comes to negotiating the delivery now, transportation of this, because taxi associations and whoever is usually given this contract will not budge or unlikely to budge on that one, on delivery now and payment after more than 30 days. The CFO is going to deal with the other questions on accruals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. With maybe with the question for the PYEI on slides 20, that's some of the schools in terms of opting not to participate in this program of appointing the assistants. They consulted with their SGBs and they opted not to participate. Some retained some of the assistants that were appointed in the previous financial year, so they were not going to appoint any new assistants. And this were mainly schools in quintiles 5. So these are the ones that we're referring to where they opted not to appoint. In terms of these savings, what we indicated, they were saying we might, I know it's a long shot, but we might have to just engage maybe DBE to say, look, we've got pressures in other areas of COE, so maybe why can't we utilize then those savings to cover those pressures. In terms of the accruals, it's a variety, and it covers all operations. Like your payment for your municipal accounts, payments for photocopier machines, cleaning and services, security services, S&T, payments to Torvext. As well as computer services. So, Honourable Member, it's just because operations are impacted, it's just anything that is under operation. So it is contained in them. In terms of the overall, in terms of the payments and not being captured and the late recognition of payments, in terms of the question around the impact. I think what we're working around as a department is that, yes, our system is currently manual in terms of the receiving of an invoice. So now when you receive an invoice, you can't automatically see what's received immediately. It takes days to travel within the approval lines for us to pick up that there is an invoice. This requires, if we had to fix this, we'd have to have an automated system, but we are trying to improve the manual controls that we have. We know that Provincial Treasury is also having a project for the entire province, because not only for education, but I think for all the other departments, they have the same issue in terms of being able to pick up these issues of the invoices, whereas you find that not at our volume or level, but all the other departments also end up just at the end of the financial year now start showing all these accruals. So I think it is impacting how we capture and when we capture. So this late recognition of payments and the capturing and the payments for us, in the normal circumstance, you'll almost have like a 30-day gap in between, always at the end of the year. There's possible that you are receiving invoices every day. So you will, when you open the new year, have invoices from last year, but it will be a small margin, 30 days. But where the problem is for the Department of Education, our margin is not 30 days. It's more than that, and sometimes can get to even 6 months or even greater than 6 months because of the issue of the cash flow. So now it creates this huge gap to say that you have got invoices on hand, but you aren't able to pay. And when you capture them on the system, you authorize them. They reflect as expenditure on your reports when you close the year, but the actual payment has not been made. It will only be made in the following financial year. So it's that repeating of that cycle, at each point, which is causing issues. Thank you very much.
I'm very sorry, CFO. I'm pressed for time, and I still got members that I need to take.
All right.
I literally have 5 minutes. can I first take? Yes, because we've got another meeting starting at 10. You see, when you come late, it does not mean that the meeting delays. You know, the meeting continues. Dr. If we can just ask questions quickly, and so that we'll request that the responses also. Yeah, go first, Dr.
No, thank you. I will suspend a number of the questions I had in the interest of time and just ask one or two. Firstly, thank you, CFO, for the presentation. And I must agree with the chairperson that the presentation was very clear, and also echo the sentiments that it would have been even much more clearer if we had received it on time. But thank you nonetheless, and MEC as well for the contributions to the discussion. You indicated that one of the implications from Treasury's intervention is that you are halted from entering any new contracts. So I wanted to check if that also applies to the renewal of existing contracts coming towards expiration. The implications of that on existing contracts that are coming towards the end of their term. Are they also subjected to Treasury authorization? As well as on a separate note, if one could establish the current status at Treasury in terms of the approval for the LTSM. Just those two.
Asibonge Dr. Sure. Honorable Sam.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairperson, and sorry for being late. It's unforeseen circumstances. I had 6 questions, Chairperson, but however, I'll bring them down to
We'll take 2, it's fine.
Greetings to the department and the MEC, and thank you so much for the presentation. My question is around the accruals, basically. I know you've answered, but I wasn't quite satisfied with your answer. So my first one would be the original accruals is reported to be 1.6 billion, but after investigation, it's dropped to 1.077 billion. A reduction of 568 million was done. My question is, what exactly caused this 568 million overstatement on the major accounts? And which specific account were overstated by how much each? And who signed off the original 1.6 billion figure? The second one will be, who exactly is responsible for the overstatement of accruals and payables by 568 million? Have any individual been subjected to a disciplinary process yet? And if not, why not? Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Kanye. You are covered. Okay, sure. Oh,
Okay, Smog, I'll just have 2 questions. The dispute with Public Works and Infrastructure is now the single biggest blocker to the release of withheld funds. What is the exact rand value of the disputed amount with Public Works? When will the written agreement and payment plan be finalized? Please give me a firm date, not in progress. And the second one, Provincial Treasury has withheld all non-salary, non-conditional grant funding until the creditors are paid from current budget. What is the total rand value of funds currently being withheld for the 2025-26 financial year?
Thank you. Honorable Nai.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Just to follow up, it's very concerning when we hear that learners are not going to be receiving textbooks and so on. As much as we're discussing all the financials of this matter, it comes down to how serious this is for the future of our children in KwaZulu-Natal. And so I don't think we should walk away from this meeting and taking the comments that were made, especially by MEC, lightly, that this extension of Section 18 is political. I think that the suggestion that was made that we have a joint meeting where these issues are ironed out and we have a clear picture of where the Department of Education is sitting at and what needs to be done, whether you need to be moved off Section 18 and be able to function as you would. Those are the burning questions that need answering in this entire report. I think that's the main thing that we should deal with and find a way forward. And especially what I would have liked today was a progress report on each of the interventions. Because as much as we're saying we need the budget is the problem, and you need the budget to resolve all of the matters. If all of these interventions and the issues that we raise are not dealt with, then we're going to come back to square one again with the same problem.
Okay.
So that's my submission, Chair.
Honorable Pasiela?
Chair, sorry. Greetings, Chair, MEC and the committee members. Thank you for that presentation. You know, I'm going to ask the same old question, so forgive me if I keep repeating it, but it must be asked. The infrastructure grant was set at 93 million, and there was a report by the person who was delivering the report on expenditure. So let me understand it quite clearly rather than try to figure this out myself. What amount has not been spent, and besides the infrastructure grant, from any other amounts that haven't been spent, what amounts can be reprioritized to get to the pit toilets? The pit latrines, on a normal, non-government basis, can be constructed at, maybe 200,000 for one school. So it's not such it appears as it's a huge problem to get the funds to get this done, but it seems like there can be reprioritization of funds, and this can be made available. So that's a question: can there be? Can something happen? Whatever needs to happen must happen, so that the pit latrines disappear and we don't carry the same subject over and over. It's been carried over now for 30 years, going on 31. We don't want it to go any further. Okay, then the Presidential Youth Fund, they were supposed to have been 10,322 educator assistants employed. Have they all been employed? And if not, if there's an amount from there which could be reprioritized, and then how much do we pay on leases? Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Okay. No, thank you so much. My apologies, honorable members. I'm really under pressure. MEC, with your team, yes.
No, the quick one. The account with Public Works, particularly on infrastructure projects, is now up to date. But of course, there are other implementing agents, not only Public Works. I think on the issue of textbooks, we've already responded on the issue of textbook to say that we have not been granted, permission to place an order on textbooks, and I did indicate what the implications are. The CFO is going to deal with the others.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I think in terms of what new contracts and approvals, it's like everything. When you're saying you're going to issue an order, it has to go to Provincial Treasury, irrespective. So we have to go to Treasury for all orders, excepting those that are under grant, as you had indicated, if it's grant funded or specific funding and exclusively appropriated. But anything else that is in the equitable share, whatever, if you want to, that's why we even sent, because we had to go on an individual basis. If your toilet blocks, you have to write a submission and ask to proceed to issue an order to call someone to come and fix the toilet. So it's like everything and anything, we have to go through Provincial Treasury. And then in terms of the accruals, where the reduction of the 1.6. This is through the exercise that we're doing, where we are going through what was disclosed. So there will be an error in the financial statements that we'll have to correct. But I think in overall, what we've requested Treasury to do is training for all our officials, because there was a lack of understanding in terms of the application of the modified cash standard in terms of the accounting framework. So that's why you see that there was overestimations in some of these areas, and those included things like your LTSM, audit fees, and all the other expenditures. But basically, I think it was that understanding in terms of the accounting framework. And then in terms of how much was withheld, because they said we can continue with grants, we can continue with COE. I think maybe I can say in the region of about maybe 60 million, because it's grant funding is about 5 billion, not million, 5 billion. With COE it's about 51. So if you put that together, we're close to 60 where we could proceed. But the other 6 billion where you do your goods and services, that's where the issue was. And what we also did was to go to Treasury as well, because your procurement for norms and standards for your textbooks and for your stationery, that's norms and standards. But because some of the schools don't have the Section 21C function, we have to do the procurement. So then there again, you have to go to provincial Treasury to request. So it falls part of the basket where maybe roughly about 6 billion of orders that we have to go through provincial Treasury. Thanks.
No, thank you so much. There's only one issue, Dr. I know you want to come in. The issue of the unauthorized expenditure request to be written off. Any progress from the treasurer, provincial treasurer? Do you have anything? Not yet. Okay. Okay. Dr.
Chair, my sincere apologies. I know
Yes.
we were under the limitation of time. I really apologize. Chair, it won't be a question per se, but I do want to recommend that let's really look into the issue raised by the Honorable Naya and the MEC in terms of the meeting with Provincial Treasurer. And the reason I asked my question around their control in terms of the expenditure, how far does it go? And the CFO has responded that basically everything that touches the equitable share.
Yeah.
The unintended consequences and implications of that, for example, will be you will have contractual obligations that need to be met. And if there are any delays on the parts of Treasury, that will subsequently lead to, unauthorized or irregular expenditure on the part of the department. Inevitably, that is what's going to happen. And cyclically, that will come back to us as a portfolio, where we will then have to engage them in terms of why is there irregular expenditure, whereas they have this obligation to continue with the contractual obligations, regardless of the delays that will be on the part of Treasury.
Sure.
And many other aspects. It's just one example of the many consequences that will happen.
Okay.
So I'm saying that let's look into a resolution around that particular matter.
Yeah.
So that our interrogation becomes both ways in terms of playing oversight, but also support.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's correct, Dr. because now here the Treasury has taken major functions, but they're not made to account here. So it's it's like when they've got a responsibility now, financial responsibility, they must account on some of the issues. But unfortunately, the department comes and appears alone here when there are some of the issues that they must be able to account before us and say, when we ask this question, for instance, this question relating to textbooks that they're not going to be bought, what is the implication at a local level now? The department can't answer that because now it's Treasury that has taken that decision, So when you take that decision, you must be able to stand up, defend that decision, for yourself, not someone else defending that issue.